In episode 2, we get a little more backstory as to what happened between Belly and Conrad in the months from December, when they were good together, to the summer when it all came crumbling down. In December, during break, Conrad decided to pick Belly up, and they went to the house in Cousins. Conrad had never really been there in the winter, so it was a little weird for the two, but on the way there, they discussed what gifts Conrad got for his mom, and he crushed it thanks to Belly's help. And at that time, it seemed like Susanna was actually getting better. Spirits were super high for both of them. They got to the house in Cousins. It was empty, as they expected. They lit a fire. They started hooking up. One thing led to another, and Conrad ended up taking her V card. Yeah, that's right. Belly lost her virginity to her dream guy in a summer home during the dead of winter right next to a fire. It's a lot more romantic than my experience, which was at a Red Roof Inn off the interstate, but it was one of the $24.99 specials they had, so at least I was cost conscious. Anyway, fast forward to present day Belly, and she hopped on the first bus up to Brown to help Jeremiah find Conrad. On the way up, she texted Taylor and said, "Hey, can you cover for me? I told my mom I was going to your place." And Taylor, being a good friend, said, "Yeah, no problem." And then she texts her mom and says, "Hey, I'm at Taylor's. Her and her boyfriend broke up. I'm dealing with that fallout. I'll see you later." And her mom, who is so preoccupied at the moment with her upcoming book tour, is more than happy to get one kid out of the house. That does end up being a little bit of an issue, though. Laurel tells Steven that Belly's at Taylor's house because of the fact that Taylor broke up with her boyfriend, and that little sentence gets Steven's attention. But throughout the day, they end up seeing Taylor a few times. Belly's nowhere to be found. Taylor ends up covering for her, just like she said she would, but it becomes more and more difficult each time they run into each other, and she's not with her. Steven, being a man of Princeton, isn't that big of an idiot. He knows something's going on. After one such encounter with Taylor, he finally texts Belly and says, "Hey, how's Taylor holding up with the whole boyfriend situation?" And when Belly responds, "Not well, we're sitting here watching Titanic crying our eyes out," and Steven knows that can't be possible because he just saw Taylor leave Barnes & Noble, that all but confirms something's not right. And as for Laurel, she spent the day clothes shopping for her book tour. And you realize just how this whole situation is hitting her because everything reminds her of Susanna. Internally, she starts questioning if she can even do this, go on a whole book tour and talk about her best friend and keep it together. As she is trying to hold back tears in a changing room, Steven knows he has to get some answers as to what happened to his sister. Later in the day, Steven knows he needs to address it, so he drives over to Taylor's house and says, "I know Belly's not here. What is going on with my sister?" And Taylor, being cornered, finally says, "Fine, I'll tell you. She went up to Brown because Conrad's missing, and her and Jeremiah are looking for him as we speak." And Steven, who's friends with the boys, better friends than Belly, at least he thought, is shocked that Jeremiah reached out to his sister and not him. And Taylor, who has no idea why Jeremiah did that, tells him, "I understand you're upset right now, but can you let Belly fix this? She feels really bad about what happened between the boys, and you've already made her feel like crap about the whole situation. Let her handle it." And Steven reluctantly says, "Fine, but if you hear anything, you need to tell me." But up at Brown, things are not going great. Belly certainly didn't get a warm reception from Jeremiah. He's very standoffish, very cold, and that's probably because of what happened between him, Belly, and his brother, but also the fact that he's stressed out about what happened to his brother. The first place they decide to start, though, is his dorm room. It certainly doesn't start out great either, because when they talk to his college roommate, Trusky, the only information that Trusky has is he hasn't seen him since Thursday, and before he left, he was really getting into it with somebody on the phone. But he has no idea who he was talking to. Then they do get a hint, though, when a girl comes in and mentions how Conrad talked about hanging out with his cousin by the beach. They figured out he must be at the beach house in Cousins. Before they leave, however, it gets super awkward for Belly and Jeremiah when Trusky realizes who Belly is. He says, "Oh yeah, after you guys broke up, Conrad was in a bad place. Yeah, when you guys broke up, he just kept looking at your picture on his phone." And Jeremiah gets super quiet about that. Trusky also mentions how Conrad has a bio final coming up. So Belly decides to grab his computer to help Conrad study when they eventually do find him. And when she picks it up, her infinity necklace is sitting right under it. Once Belly and Jeremiah get back to the car, Jeremiah starts going through the situation out loud. Conrad hasn't missed a day of school in his life, even when his mom was sick, so this is a big deal. He can't figure out who exactly he was yelling at on the phone. He figures it has to be their dad, but he can't figure out what they'd be arguing about. Jeremiah is super concerned for his brother at this point. It's only been a month since their mother passed away, and he's not answering anyone's calls. It's very unlike Conrad, and he's worried he's going to do something stupid. At least he knows the next stop is Cousins, and when Belly asks him, "Do you want me to come with you?" he cops an attitude and says, "I didn't want you to come here. I think I can handle this all on my own." But maybe Conrad does. So the two get in the car and they head off. On the drive up, they're pretty quiet at first. Eventually, Jeremiah asks, "What happened with you guys?" And Belly's a little surprised that Conrad never said anything. But Jeremiah just says, "Yeah, we don't really talk about you." And then they get a flat tire. Jeremiah wants to call AAA. Belly says, "No, that's ridiculous. We can change it on our own." AKA, Jeremiah can change it on his own. But Country Club Boys never changed a tire. And when his Vineyard Vine shorts and shirt get dirty, he freaks out and loses it on Belly. Belly apologizes for everything. Not necessarily the tire, but what happened at the funeral. And Jeremiah cuts her off and says, "You think I'm pissed about the funeral? We were all going through it at the funeral. Nobody cares what you did at the funeral. I'm pissed because you hooked up with my brother a day after you hooked up with me. Everyone acted like I was supposed to be fine, but I wasn't." Belly once again apologizes because she never meant to hurt Jeremiah. She thought he was over it. But he asks, "What are you apologizing for? For Conrad dumping you? Did you really not see that coming? Because I sure did." And an exasperated Belly says, "No, I'm sorry because I've missed you. I missed you for months. That's why I called you last night. You're the one I called, not him. When your mom was sick, I was so focused on Conrad and being there for him, but I also should have been there for you too, and I hate myself for it." She gives Jeremiah a hug, who at this point is bawling his eyes out, and all he can say is, "It happened so fast." Yes, this conversation had a lot to do with the relationship between Belly and the two boys, but it also had a lot to do with Jeremiah just holding everything in about what happened with his mom. She tells Jer that she's here now and she's not going anywhere. And the two fix the tire, get back in the car, and head to Cousins. And at that point, it seems like they're in a good space. Right before they get to town, though, Belly is starving, so they stop off at a popular roadside farmer's market place. But they run into a familiar face there, Nicole. The first thing she does is give Jer her condolences. But then Belly asks what's going on with the other Deb girls, and unfortunately, Nicole's kind of lost touch with a lot of them. She did see Marissa the previous week, but Gigi's dad got caught in some insider trading thing, and they had to sell the house and move. Shayla's in Europe all summer with her parents. So yeah, gang's kind of broken up. Nicole, though, asks Belly if she wants to hang out, and Belly says, "Yeah, of course." But as Nicole bikes away, Belly knows that she's not going to call, because it just doesn't feel the same as last summer. A little while later, they arrive in the house, and Jeremiah busts in looking for Conrad. Belly is behind him, but she's a little sheepish to go in. It's the first time she would see Conrad in quite some time. It's also the first time that she's in that house since she lost her virginity. But she knows that Conrad's there because she can hear a conversation between Conrad and Jeremiah going on. She's kind of hesitant to break it up, but then she hears Conrad say, "Jer, the house has been put up for sale." And Belly can't stay quiet with that. She says, "What do you mean the house has been put up for sale?" And that's when Conrad notices her. He looks like he's been through the ringer. And he just asks, "What is she doing here?" Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.